cannot say that I really didn't wonder, I really didn't ask myself. It was more probably something that came out with the time. So while attending the Academy of Fine Art, of course, I loved painting, I loved looking for something that basically never really satisfied me. So, and actually it's still something that happens today, like I'm never really completely satisfied of what I do. So it means that I'm always in this state that I am looking for. And so also it happened, of course, when I was starting with making paintings just for what they were, and not as I did in the high school, producing maybe a work that it was supposed to be useful for advertising, maybe a product. So let's say that my approach to art, I would say that it developed with the time, like, and it was not even really so conscious, as I said. Like, I didn't really think now I am an artist or now I'm a painter. I was just doing what I love doing. I am basically, as I said, I'm basically attracted by human being with all his or her, let's say, with all its strength and fragilities, and very often, especially from the fragilities. And I found that expressing these fragilities with the oil colors and the rust works even better, because the technique is more complicated than it sounds. It's like, it's not just using water and salt and making rust and that's it, because of course there are some consequences also in using this technique, because the oxidation process is something that I start with, I try to control, but I cannot be 100% sure about what it will be in the future. There is again a contrast between my will, that is usually what every artist wants to do, and so to control perfectly the technique, and the, let's say, the accident or the chaos or what something else will decide. But as it's an oxidation process, it means that it might move on, and so the painting that you see today could be different from what it will be in 1 or 2 or 3 years. I don't expect that people feels exactly what I felt while I made the painting. It's actually very interesting for me to see how the same thing that I have done and that I feel, that I perceive in a certain way from other people, can be perceived in another way. And that's why very often the figures that I paint are almost, I would say that it almost never happens that are in a moment or in a situation that is particularly clear or particularly like aggressive or tragic. It's more something that for me has like a psychological or like, let's say, some psychological layers behind. So it's more, the idea for me with my paintings, it's more suggesting, and I think that it also works with the technique. I don't give myself a precise time to do something. It's more the idea of following the need to be satisfied. And as I said, I'm almost never really satisfied. So this means that I'm always in this loop about I'm doing maybe something right or like in the right direction, but I need more. So I'm trying to alternate my classic paintings, I would say, to something more experimental. I also started to use in this case steel plates, but trying to treat them with a different perspective compared to what I usually do. So using other colors, for example, um, adding and removing parts with some varnishes, for example. So it's more like trying to do something and to see what it will bring me. Maybe it will bring me like to a wall, and then I will step back, or maybe it will give me ideas for something new. And that's actually what happened until now. That's basically, I found something interesting when I was not really looking for it. This is kind of therapeutic for me, I would say, because it pushed me to do something in a different way, so compared to what personally I am. So I tend to have the need of controlling everything in my life. I mean, controlling myself. And this comes out in some of my art, or my making art. I don't really think, when I do a painting, I don't really think, now I want to do something. Like, usually I can be inspired by different things in my paintings. I can be very often inspired by my personal life, my personal contacts. I can be inspired by music, by books, so literature, by mythology, by films. So, and very often when I paint, as I paint people, and most of the times people I paint are also friends of mine, I usually ask them to try to have a certain attitude, or to feel a certain mood where they pose for me. So I try to give some directions, let's say, but at the same time I'm not a director, so I also give some, let's say, some space to the interpretations of my models. So it's something that it's kind of in between, let's say. But I usually say what kind of emotion I would like to have in my painting. I let my paintings talk for me.